Hello, YouTube. Mr. Mags here. Today, we'll be asking the question, what if every Pokemon region had an electric type gym leader? Now, this is actually the last in an entire series of videos just like this, where I go over every single type and create new gym leaders for every single region. I've had a ton of fun making this series. I think a lot of you have had a lot of fun watching them. If you haven't seen any videos in the series, I recommend clicking the card to watch the entire playlist if you're interested. But I wanted to end this with the electric type because the electric type was actually the first type that I noticed had a gym in nearly every single region. Up until Generation 6, every single Pokemon game had an electric gym in some capacity. The only kind of exception was Gen 2, where Johto itself did not have an electric gym, but you still did fight Lieutenant Surge in those games in the post game. So the Johto games still did have an electric gym leader in them. And that trend was only technically broken in Ultra in the Sun and Moon games when there weren't actually gym leaders, but there still was an electric trial. So the first time I would argue that the trend of having some kind of electric boss was in Sword and Shield, where there was no electric gym for the first time ever. Ironically, that being the first time there was ever actually a dark gym leader. So they kind of traded places there. Um, so because of that, I wanted to save them for last just because of the history I personally have with electric gym leaders. But even though there is an electric gym leader in pretty much every single Pokemon game, I think there's still a lot of potential with the type that could be brought out with creating new gym leaders. So, jumping into the criteria for how I develop these teams. First, the gym leader team and position will be chosen based on the electric Pokemon native to the region. So, I'm looking specifically at the region in question, the Pokemon that were first introduced in those games, and creating gym leader teams based mostly on those Pokemon. And I'll also be making choices with where in the region this gym is located. A lot of videos like this will say, oh, here are the 4 or 5 best Pokemon of any given type. That's the eighth gym. You can work backwards from there. I want to make specific choices. I might make multiple teams. I might make even an eighth gym leader, but I'll also, if any cases where I do make an eighth gym, I'll also make one earlier in the region. And if I do make multiple teams, I'll tell you which one I personally like the best. I'll use the version of the region with the most options, Platinum for Sinnoh, Black and White 2 for Unova, etc. I will not be reusing aces of any canon electric type gym leaders or Elite Four members in the region unless necessary. However, Pokemon from all other major trainers are fair game. So if a rival character or like Elite Four member or like some major trainer has electric Pokemon on their team, that does not exclude them from uh, from being on this team. However, something like Lieutenant Surge's Raichu, that would not be on uh, on this gym leader. However, uh, for example, Blue's ace, theoretical ace Jolteon from Yellow, even though it is Blue's ace in that game, it is not because Blue is not an electric focused character. That is fair game for this gym leader here. And lastly, the gym leader's overall strength will be based on the canon gym leaders of the region in question, if not slightly stronger. So I tried to keep the average base stat total similar to the position that I chose. For example, if I wanted it to be the fourth gym in Johto, that's not what I did. But let's just say I wanted to make it the fourth gym in Johto, I would have the average base stat total be similar to that of Morty. Also, the number of Pokemon will also be similar. I might add or take away here and there depending on the circumstances, especially in Gen 5 and 6, where I think those gym leaders could be a little stronger. Um, I'll add a Pokemon or even add a Mega Evolution, especially for Gen 6, but that'll be by case basis. But just generally, the strength of the gym leader will be similar to the gym leader that's normally in that position. All right. Starting off with Kanto here, I think this makes sense as the seventh gym with Electabuzz, Magneton, Electrode, and Jolteon as the ace. Throughout this entire series, I don't think I've ever actually made an evolution the ace of a gym leader. Maybe Leafeon for one of the teams in the grass video, but I just feel like it makes a lot of sense for evolutions to be ace Pokemon in Kanto. And since I can't use Raichu, these are all the electric types available, so I think this works. I have made a tweak to Lieutenant Surge's team in a previous video where I had him have Magneton, I believe it was Magnemite, Pikachu, Electabuzz, or something like that, where it was Electabuzz as the ace. And I considered just doing that again, but I wanted to switch it up a little bit and have Jolteon actually be the ace here. Next for Johto, I kind of flipped back and forth about where exactly I wanted to place this gym, but I ended up on the fifth gym with Pikachu, Lantern, Ampharos. Ampharos, I think, is one of those Pokemon that honestly, it could be the ace of a gym leader or elite four member from like the fifth gym up through the like second or third elite four member. I think it has a move set that is fairly diverse, especially in the Gen 4 remakes. It has pretty good special attack, especially for Gen 2, like actually very high special attack for those games. Pretty decent bulk. It is pretty slow. So that's the main reason why I think it could start out being fifth gen because there's just a lot of things at that point that could outspeed it. You do have access to a decent number of ground types for that point. So I think Ampharos, even though it does have pretty high special attack, there's plenty of ways to get around it by the fifth gem. I was thinking about maybe sixth gym and having it be Raichu, Lantern, Ampharos, but I don't know, just something about Pikachu being on this team felt right to me. And Pikachu is here since it evolves from Pichu, who is actually a Gen 2 Pokemon. I also floated out putting Magneton on this team since it is an electric type that gained a different type in this region, but I wanted to more so spotlight Pokemon that are technically native to the region. So since Pichu evolves into Pikachu, I went with Pikachu here. But I could just as easily see this being a sixth or seventh gym, adding Raichu and maybe even Magneton at that point. Now for Hoenn, this one was actually tricky, but also a lot of fun to come up with because even in the Gen 3 games, they didn't really make, oh, like Ruby and Sapphire, they didn't really make a great electric gym. For some reason, Watson's ace was Magneton, and he didn't have a single Gen 3 Pokemon on his entire team. They thankfully fixed it in Emerald and had Magnectric as his ace. But the problem is, since Magnectric did end up actually being his ace, um, I can't use it, and the only other electric types native to the region are Plusle and Minun. There's like a small handful of other electric types throughout, but the only other ones that are new to the region are Plusle and Minun. But I actually think that works really well as a second gym that is a double battle, having Plusle and Minun both as the dual aces, and then Electrike and Voltorb to fill out the team. I don't think Voltorb will be able to have Sonic Boom by this point in the game. I think that, or even if it does learn it a little, like by then, I think second gym would that dealing just 20 base power might be a little too strong, especially since it would be the ace of the team. But Electrike and Voltorb both being pretty fast, but they can't hit super hard. I think it's fine for this double battle to be the second gym. Um, Plusle and Minun both having helping hand to make the other one stronger, but also once again, they can't hit super hard, especially by level, well, let's say usually in at least Ruby and Sapphire, The second gym is on 18. Maybe you can scale that down a little bit to 16 or 17, like they did in the remakes where his Makimahita is only 16 for some reason. Um, I could kind of go either way with the level there, but I really don't think this would be too overwhelming for a second gym. But the reason why I like this even more as a double battle is because there are starting in routes just after Dewford, there are actually several different double battles that have these plus one nine pairs that help each other out. Actually, can be kind of difficult where they paralyze you and one boosts the other special attack. So if they know spark, it actually can be kind of dangerous if you're not ready for it. But those start happening after the second gem town. So this would be the first time you would see this pairing. So I dig that quite a bit. Next up for Sinnoh. This is another one where I kind of went back and forth about where exactly to place this. I ended up on the sixth gym. I know Byron typically only has three Pokemon, but because I didn't have access to Luxray or Electivire, I had to get a little creative, which was kind of the point of taking away those aces as an option, just to force myself to use Pokemon that weren't really seen very much as it is. So I went with sixth gym, Pachirisu, Luxio, Electabuzz, and an ace Magnezone. Like I said, I considered just having Pachirisu, Electabuzz, Magnezone as a sixth gym, but I felt Pachirisu and Electabuzz not being the strongest. And that average base stat total would be a lot lower than Byron's team normally would be. So I just added another Pokemon just to help fill out the team a little bit. Plus, Luxio's Intimidate can help with any Pokemon you're hoping to just sweep through with Earthquake. It might let Electabuzz tank one hit. Um, I also consider making this the seventh gym since Candace also uses two, at least in her Platinum fight, uses two not fully evolved Pokemon that evolve into Gen 4 Pokemon. But I don't know. I something about Pachirisu, Luxio, and Electabuzz altogether just felt like it should be a little earlier in the region. So I went with sixth gym. However, I did go with one other team as well, making it the first gym with Elekid, Magnemite, and Pachirisu as the ace. I honestly kind of like this team a little more. Just something about Pachirisu, like the first root rodent actually getting a spotlight like this. Clearly, I kind of dig that with plus one minus as well. Um, and once again, Pachirisu can't really hurt you super hard, but also I think it's like just bulky enough and just fast enough that it could potentially be slightly challenging to take out. But assuming it's in a similar place as Rourke typically is, you do have access to some ground type options in Onyx and Geodude in the nearby mine and cave regions. But I also went with Elekid and Magnemite since they evolve into Gen 4 Pokemon. I briefly had Shinx here instead of one of them, but I don't know, just something about both of them evolving into Gen 4 Pokemon. Just I I dig that, especially since they're not both from the same region, which is one of the reasons why I don't love Rourke's team, since he has basically Brock's team plus a fossil Pokemon. I at least like the variety here of Elekid and Magnemite being from two different regions. Next up, Unova. I went with the seventh gym here with Emolga, Stunfisk, Galvantula, and Electros holding a electric gym. I firmly believe that if Game Freak had the idea to introduce battle mechanics, like battle gimmick mechanics, one gen earlier, they absolutely would have given every single major trainer a type boosting gym. So I think it makes sense for this electric gym leader to have a electric gym. I think Eelektross just makes perfect sense as an ace Pokemon. It's honestly kind of surprising that it never was the ace of any given gym leader or major trainer like that. It was on Gets's team, it's on your rival's team on the final battle of Black and White 2, but it just gives off, mid to late game boss material to me. So I think it fits perfectly as a seventh gem. And then I kind of went between this being seventh or eighth, but Emolga and Stunfisk and not being the most formidable, I think this works as the seventh gem. I also briefly considered this being the sixth gym and taking away Stunfisk and just having Molga, Galvantula, and Electros and have none of them be weak to ground. Emolga would be completely immune. Galvantula would at least be neutral to it, and then Electros's Levitate would have it be immune as well. But that also seemed a little too strong for a sixth gym, so I went with seventh gym and added on Stunfisk. Now for Kalos, I typically like to have one team that has a mega evolution, but unfortunately with with this generation, it's another one kind of like with Gen 3 where the only new electric types introduced were the Pika clone and then one other that was already the ace of a gym leader in this region. So I had to get a little creative with these teams. I created two different teams, one being the first gym with Helioptile and Dedenne. I don't think this is nearly as formidable as the team I made for the first gym in Sinnoh. I probably should have added another Pokemon here as well, but I don't know. I don't know. I something about Dedenne being the ace of a first gym, especially since does have that fairy typing, it adds, the first gym having that new type interaction. I kind of dig, and Helioptile being a new type combination any player had never seen before. I think that's kind of fun, but definitely not. It wouldn't even be as imposing as the first gym typically is, even though you wouldn't really think Vivian would be that strong. It is a fully evolved Pokemon. It does have a lot of weaknesses, but like by that point in the game, you don't really have access to a lot of rock and fire moves. So even more here, I don't really know if you'll have a lot of ground or even that many poison attacks to take this thing out. So it could work, but it's definitely not my favorite team here. I do actually like the team I made also, that is the seventh gem with Raichu, Dedenne, Emolga, and Mega Manectric. I went with those three because I just aesthetically I like the idea of three different Pika clones being on the same team, and then Mega Manectric. It's crazy that Watson never got to use one since they, for some reason, didn't have gym leader rematches in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. So I'm putting Mega Manectric on a gym leader team here just because that makes sense. Next, Alola. Now, Alola doesn't usually have gym leaders, so I'm making these teams based on the average levels of the trainers that are in the region, as well as just, basing it loosely on gym leaders, the strength of other gym leaders from other regions. So first here, I actually made two teams once again, an eighth gem with Alolan Golem, Togedemaru, Vikavolt, and Ace Alolan Raichu. I just think Alolan Raichu is probably the Pokemon that I think represents the region as a whole the best. Is I would argue the poster child of um, regional variants. Uh, it it's I think it's still a unique typing. There might be one other electric psychic type I can't think of right now, but it has a fairly unique typing. Um, it does have its at least one unique Z move. She wouldn't use it. She would just use the typical electric Z move, but it's still, I think, just there's a lot of things that just this Pokemon represent from the region very nicely. And then three other electric types that are native to the region, including another Alolan form. I kind of went back and forth between Alolan Golem and Raichu being the ace, along with Vikavolt, since in the past I felt a little weird about having a regional variant be the ace, but something about Alolan Raichu being the ace here feels right to me. But after making this team, just the idea of Vikavolt's previous evolution, Charge-a-Bug, its signature ability battery making it so that its allies get a boost in their special attack. That just kept rattling around my head. I'm like, how do I make that work on a gym leader team? Is that really possible? And I came up with a solution that I'm somewhat happy with. I made a fourth gym team here that is also a double battle with Charjabug and Pikachu leading off, and then Togedemaru and Alolan Golem as the dual aces. Now, obviously, it's a little weird that Togedemaru and Alolan Golem don't even have kind of close to the same base set total. I think Alolan Golem is like 490, 500. Togedemaru was in the low 400s. So they're not really equivalent, but Charjabug does have a lot higher base set total than Pikachu. So I think it more or less evens out. Um, and it is also a little weird that Charjabug, like assuming you take out Pikachu first, Charjabug can't really help Alolan Golem. Maybe it can have a discharge or like some other electric move, especially since Togedemaru has Lightning Rod. But Alolan Golem would basically need Charjabug on the team in order to make discharge deal any damage, since a special attack is kind of garbage. But I think there are ways that this team can synergize in ways that maybe even I don't really see at this point. But just the idea of Charjabug boosting this Pikachu, who may or may not even be holding a light ball. I don't know. Fourth gen might be a little too early for that, but I think it could be, especially in the Ultra Sun Moon games where the games are basically glorified ROM hacks, it seems, as far as strength is concerned. I think you could maybe get away with Pikachu having a light ball by that point, but already having a 50% boost on his presumed Thunderbolts would be pretty strong as it is. Next up, Galar. The first team here is another eighth gem with more Pico, Dracozolt, Arctozolt, and a G-Max Toxtricity. Toxtricity is one of my all-time favorite Pokemon. I just instantly fell in love with that thing. Used it in my first playthrough of Sword, and the fact that no major trainer or really any trainer uses G-Max Toxtricity is honestly kind of weird to me. It seems like it has such a connection to the lore of the region. It seems like there are just a couple of trainers that maybe at some point should have used one, but they just kind of never did. But I'm putting one here, and along with three other electric types native to the region. But I did also make another one since I felt like leaving off Boltund from the gym leader challenge completely felt a little weird to me. So I also made one that is a second gym, since the second gym typically doesn't Gigantamax anyway. I think it's fine to have the Boltund be the ace here, along with Joltik and Pincurchin. Alternatively, you could just have more Pico, Boltund, Pincurchin, Toxtricity, especially by the eighth gym. If you want to give Pincurchin his hidden ability of Electric Surge to make Toxtricity's G-Max moves deal even more damage, that could be an option. But I think this is more than manageable as a second gym, especially if there are especially if there would be at least one or two other electric ground or even grass types to help counter this out. But yeah, I just feel like Boltund is one of those Pokemon that just kind of screams earlier gym ace, whereas Gmax Toxtricity feels so right as an eighth gym ace. So one or the other, or a combination of both. I like both teams quite a bit. Probably this one just because I like Toxtricity a little more, but I like both of these teams I created quite a bit. And Joltik is here just because I don't know, I wanted another weak electric type, and I think Joltik fit that pretty well. Now for Paldea. In all the previous videos here, I've created at least three different teams for Paldea to represent the three different ways that terrestrialization can be utilized. One being a Pokemon that is of your type that tears into your type to make your moves even stronger. One that is a Pokemon of your type that tears into a different type, so that Pokemon can now be either offensively or defensively good into Pokemon that the type usually struggles with. And the last one being one that is not of your type that tears into your type to represent some kind of theme, like Sudowoodo tearing into its true colors of a grass type, or some kind of strategy like how Miss Maggie is tears into an electric type. So that way technically has no weaknesses since it has levitate. And I am personally very proud of the Pokemon that was not electric that tears into electric for this one. So we'll get to that in just a second. But honestly, I like all three of these teams quite a bit. But the the last one is probably one of my all-time favorite for this entire series. So starting off, I think they actually got it right with the third gym. Um, Iono used four Pokemon on her team. I think you could get away with only three, especially since all of these are they're Palmo isn't fully evolved, but Kilowattrel is fully evolved. She used just a Wattrel. I think even she could have gotten away with making her levels overall a little higher and having a Kilowattrel there. But um yeah, with Kilowattrel here and then Belly Bolt as the ace and it tearing into an electric type, having its electromorphous ability would make, since it's already super slow, it is absolutely going to get hit before it has a chance to attack. It is going to hit you with a really, really powerful electric type move. So I just really like this the synergy there quite a bit. Next up, we have a fifth gem with Belly Bolt, Oricorio, since I just felt a little bad about not putting Oricorio anywhere on the electric gems I made in Alola. I put one here. Palmot now, and then Kilowattrel that tears into an ice type. I think this just works so well on an electric team since some of the main types that electric struggles with are ground and grass, and ice covers both of those flawlessly. I just think that fits very nicely here. And I also like the idea of Oricorio being here since Kilowattrel will lose both its electric and flying types. There's another electric flying type on the team to kind of, yeah, to kind of balance that out a little bit. So I like this team quite a bit. Not quite as much as this last team here. That is a sixth gem with Bellybolt, Kilowattrel, Palmot, and a Mimikyu that tears into an electric type. I am so proud of myself for thinking of this. I like this even more than honestly kind of obvious picks of having Luxray being a dark type or Gyarados being a dragon type, or maybe a little more reaches like a um, Blissey being a fairy type, all those being in previous videos. Mimikyu, it's since its whole thing is that it's literally trying to look like a Pikachu. It's trying to, trick people into thinking it is a Pikachu. This guy tearing it into an electric type to further that even more. I really, really like that so much. Plus, Mimikyu can learn moves like Wood Hammer to help with electric that will help with ground types that the type typically struggles with. I just think this works so well as an ace here. I can maybe even see this working as a seventh gym, maybe, but I feel like the average base set total of this team is closer to that of Rhyme in the sixth gym, but sixth or seventh, either way. Uh, Having Mimikyu here just fits so nicely, and I'm very, very happy with this team. But honestly, all three of these teams I like a lot for many different reasons. Again, with Belly Bolt just hitting super hard with those electric moves, Kilowattrel tearing into a type that just helps the team very well, and then Mimikyu, I think fitting this team even better than Sudowoodo did. So yeah, I like all these teams quite a bit, and I think this is a very, very satisfying ending to this entire series, ending with one of the one of my favorite teams I've ever created for this entire series. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you so much for watching any videos in this entire series. Once again, I'll have the series playlist linked in the cards if you want to catch up on any that you've missed. Um, yeah, please let me know down below what you thought about any of the teams I created here. Are there any Pokemon I made aces that you think shouldn't be, or Pokemon I completely forgot about, or gym leader positions that you agree or disagree with? Please let me know down below. Yeah, I have enjoyed having discussions with people in the comments throughout this entire series. I it's just been a little passion project of mine to do this for a while now. So I'm glad I finally like as much fun as this has been. It has been 18 videos in a row, and like I said, it has been fun. But I'm very excited to move on to other videos that I've also been theater crafting along this way. So please be on the lookout for all future content. And if you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know down below. Like I said, I enjoy having discussions with people, just enjoy, generating new ideas and iterating on ideas I've had in the past. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what I'm gonna show you guys in the future. So with all that, I will see you all next time.